In the heart of Germany, there lies a railway station that few travelers dare speak of. Its name, once proudly displayed in neon lights, has faded into obscurity, overlooked by modern commuters rushing through their busy lives. The station, nestled at the edge of a small town in northern Germany, was known as Bahnhof Vierlanden. Its history is steeped in tragedy, and its platform is a place where the living and the dead have shared moments that can only be described as horrific. The story begins in the late 1940s, just after the end of World War II. The station had always been a central point for the surrounding villages, offering a gateway to the rest of the country. People would arrive, leave, and pass through with little regard for the darker aspects of life. However, a sinister shift occurred in the late winter of 1946 when a series of inexplicable events began to haunt the station. It all began with strange occurrences during the late-night shifts. The station's janitor, a man named Dieter Weber, was the first to notice it. The old station, constructed in the early 1900s, was filled with creaky wooden floors and dimly lit hallways. As Dieter swept the platform late one evening, he heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps following him. Turning around, he saw nothing but shadows dancing in the corners of the station. At first, he thought it was just the wind or perhaps a trick of the light. But then, the footsteps grew louder, more pronounced, as if they were being made by a heavy, deliberate stride. Dieter told his colleagues, but they laughed it off, attributing it to his imagination. However, the strange events continued. The next night, Dieter was once again alone on the platform when the train from Hamburg pulled into the station. As the train's headlights swept across the platform, Dieter saw something that sent chills down his spine. There, standing at the far end of the platform, was a figure. It was a man, tall and gaunt, dressed in a dark uniform that looked strangely old-fashioned, even for the 1940s. The figure stared at Dieter for a moment, and then, as if on cue, vanished into the night. The following weeks saw more reports of eerie happenings. One passenger, a woman traveling alone, claimed she saw the figure again. This time, she described the man as standing at the edge of the platform, gazing out toward the tracks with an expression of deep sorrow. When she approached him, she was struck by the coldness of the air around him, as if the figure itself was radiating an unnatural chill. The woman tried to speak to him, but when she did, the figure suddenly turned and walked toward the dark tunnel that led to the train station's underground level, only to find the tunnel empty and cold, as if the man had never been there. But it wasn't just the mysterious figure that unnerved the station's staff and passengers. Soon, the station was plagued by inexplicable phenomena. Doors would slam shut with no wind to push them, lights would flicker, and sometimes, the sound of a train whistle would echo through the station in the dead of night, even when no trains were scheduled to arrive. It wasn't long before rumors spread throughout the town. Some said the station was cursed, haunted by the ghosts of soldiers who died during the war. Others claimed that it was the restless spirit of a man who had been wronged, a man who had once worked at the station, only to be framed for a crime he didn't commit. Some said it was the ghost of a conductor, his body lost in a tragic accident, now seeking revenge for his untimely death. Whatever the truth, the stories seemed to build on each other, feeding into the growing fear surrounding the station. One of the most chilling events occurred in the summer of 1947, when a group of tourists arrived at the station during their travels. They were unaware of the station's dark reputation, and, eager to explore, they wandered through the old, abandoned sections of the building. As they explored the station's derelict parts, they came across a hidden room deep inside the station. The room had no windows, and the air was thick with dust and decay. The door, though seemingly locked for years, creaked open with a simple push. The tourists discovered something that would haunt them forever. The walls of the room were covered with faded drawings, strange, unsettling images that depicted scenes of violence, death, and sorrow. In the center of the room stood a wooden bench, its surface carved with deep, jagged marks, as though something or someone had been scratching at it for years. There were also whispers, soft voices that seemed to come from nowhere, echoing in the silence of the room. When the tourists left, they reported hearing footsteps behind them as they walked down the narrow hallways, though no one was ever seen. Despite the increasing number of ghostly encounters, the station remained operational. However, it became clear that no one could explain the haunting phenomena. The station was eventually shut down in the early 1950s, and the town's residents started to avoid it altogether. The railway line was rerouted, and the station, now a shell of its former self, was abandoned. Over the years, the station continued to deteriorate. However, reports of strange sightings and noises continued to surface. Local legends grew, with some people claiming to have seen the figure of the tall, gaunt man standing at the edge of the platform, staring out into the darkness, waiting for something, or someone. Others said that, on certain nights, the sound of a train's whistle could be heard in the distance, though no train would ever arrive. Some believed that the station had become a place where time itself had become distorted, where the past and present collided in eerie ways. The tragic deaths and the untold stories of the workers, soldiers, and passengers who had passed through the station lingered, their spirits trapped in the station's decaying walls. The last recorded sighting of the ghostly figure came in the early 1960s. A young woman named Clara, a reporter for a local newspaper, ventured into the abandoned station, hoping to investigate the rumors for herself. She disappeared that night, and her body was never found. Some say she crossed paths with the restless spirit of the station, becoming another soul trapped within its dark corridors. To this day, Bahnhof Vierlanden remains a place shrouded in mystery, its haunted past living on in whispered legends. Those brave enough to approach its crumbling structure report feeling an overwhelming sense of dread, as though something is watching them, waiting for them to venture too close. The spirits of the station, once forgotten, continue to haunt the silent platform, forever bound to the place where time stands still, and the past never truly fades away.